Saint Allah and Saint Joseph. And I didn't have another province for the other one, which is Charles. No, no, it wasn't. I forget who it was. Anyway, one of the ships is named after him, so I'll be able to see that later. And also, New Carthage over here. It says Neve Carthage because that's it. Neve is new in Breton, so I decided to do that. I was going to put Nouveau, but because a lot of the references to Brittany in the game are French, so. But I decided not to. It won't, no, it won't mean anything anyway. But yeah, I changed the name of the provinces, and I renamed one of the provinces Ultra Jordan because I like the name. And since we've actually held this land for such a long time, it makes sense that we'd rename some of it from the more Arabic-sounding ones. I haven't changed any of the ones that are still not our culture. But this actually has Baghdad in it. I didn't want to change the name of Baghdad. Or some of the ones like Mecca and Medina. Basra, I didn't want to change. But some of the ones I'll change. Like these two are definitely going to get changed later. And probably like this one. I won't go crazy on it, but if I start colonizing the New World, I probably will change a bunch of stuff. What else? Oh, yeah. Up here, we've got our little modifiers. We got, this deficit thing, the economy, because of the mod, doesn't kick in until the end of the month. So basically it has no effect, but at the end of the month it'll kick in. So that's why this is up. We can change our slider, we got a few advisor slots, and we can build province improvements, national decisions, and disputed succession. Various things will pop up here, like you have troops in foreign territory, war, that sort of things. Go over this a little bit. This is our overview screen for our empire. This Breton Empire is a feudal monarchy. That's our type of government. We can change to another one. We can actually change to two other ones, but one of them requires a decision to do. Now, this is our main culture, Breton. This is our leader's name, Laurens Kern. This indicates that we control the Pope. This is our prestige, and this is our rank among nations, number 1. It's actually based on prestige, so we're tied with a bunch of people. This indicates we are Catholic, and this is some modifiers we have, and here's our reputation. Click on the modifiers, you can see that we have these modifiers from the conquest of Mecca and the conquest of Jerusalem, because we held Judea and Mecca. Below this we can see our kind of relations with people. We got good relations with pretty much everybody we interact with a lot, and the various crusaders. We actually have a lower reputation with the Knights and the two Teutons because we've actually fought them. But we've actually fought Byzantium before too. And Sicily is one of our kind of traditional friends. I would like France to be on this list because France is very dangerous, but we'll have to deal with that later. We're allied with Byzantium. We view France, Byzantium, the Papal States, and Andalusia as natural rivals because excuse me. Because these are the people that are comparable to us in power. I'm not sure why the Papal States are on there. Probably just because they border me. But France, Andalusia, and Byzantium are pretty comparable to us in power. We got a lot of provinces, but a lot of our provinces suck. I feel threatened by Byzantium and France because we border them. I don't know why we're threatened by our allies, but we are. We are threatened by France. We can create vassals here, but we don't have any kind of subject nations to release because we have cores and everything. This is our court screen. We can have our king here and his heir, Edouards. And if our king dies pretty soon, because he's 9, we'll get a what's it called, Regency Council, which means we won't be able to declare war on anybody for a while. These are our advisors, the great men of the court. If we click on here, because it's empty, we can actually pick up somebody. Now, you can see from these advisors that they're all pretty good. This is because they were converted from Crusader Kings, and pretty much everybody's got good advisors like that, so I'm not worried about that. In Europe, anyway. Yeah, we can hire and fire them. I'll go over that when we start looking at them more. This is our economy screen. As you can see, we can't really see much going with it because of our income hasn't kicked in yet. But you can see this, you know, the taxes are like how much tax you're getting from stuff. Your production is how much money you're getting through direct production in the empire. Trade income is how much you're trading through centers of trade, and your gold income is how much of it's going to gold. And tariffs are foreign trade. This is your investments. This is basically these sliders. You can see there's a little bracket here. And the more you work on these sliders, the higher up they go. The more you are spending on the investment. Your advisor salary is how much you're paying your advisors. Colonial maintenance, we won't really see for a little while, but it's how much you're spending on colonies. Missionary maintenance is the same, but you'll actually see that. Military maintenance is how much it costs to maintain your armies. I'll probably have a pretty big army, so this number will be pretty big. Interest is how much you're paying towards loans. And this is your total. So we're spending $79 a month, but our economy hasn't kicked in, so that's why it's like that. The war subsidies they're like people giving you money to fight your war. But think of like a Lend-Lease Act sort of thing. We can actually, that's like a diplomatic decision. You can offer people war subsidies to help them. This is the balance. This is the total we have. It's negative right now. I don't really care. This is how much inflation we have. It makes your money worth less over time. Down here we can take a loan. You can mouse over it to see how much of a loan it is and the interest rate. We can have about 5 loans, and if you run out of money, you automatically take a loan. This is your missionary and colonial maintenance. We aren't using any right now. The sliders, these sliders are probably the most important things on this list, because this is basically your tech rate, and you can focus on various areas of tech production. Probably at the beginning of the game, I'll be focusing on government, trade, and naval, but not to the expense of these other ones. Stability is a special one because you can set it up really high, and then you'll get stability really fast. But when you don't need stability, it won't use any money, so that's good. And then treasury is how much of your economy you're actually putting into raw money, and you need raw money to build ships and armies and province improvements. Also for spending money on various things, you need to have your treasury up. You don't need to have your treasury up because at the end of the year you get a big chunk of money to use. But I probably will have my treasury up a little bit because I like buying troops over the year and stuff like that. Here we have our military screen. This shows what type of troops we have. Here's your infantry. We can click on here. You can switch between these two. I like the Latin medieval infantry. They're more balanced. We can Latin Knights for our cavalry. Again, I like the Latin Knights because they're more balanced. These squares here, this is your offensive and defensive morale. We have no defensive morale. That basically means that when you're defending, you don't have any morale. Morale is pretty important. But this does mean that they're more the chevaliers, however you pronounce that, are more powerful attackers. But I'm as likely to be defending as attacking, considering my placement in the world. We can't build artillery yet. These are heavy ships, carracks. Everybody has carracks. Light ships we can't build yet. Galleys and cogs, which are transports. Here we can see how many of the units they have and the fire and shock stats of them. And you can actually see these in the phases of combat. The combat's much more in depth than in Crusader Kings. Although Crusader Kings did have quite a bit of depth in combat, it just wasn't really easy to see what it was going on. Anyway, and down here we have a war exhaustion. We are 0-0 of 17. This basically is how fed up people are of the war. And this goes down over time, and it goes up when you're at war. These are our land and naval morales, and our support limits. As you can see, we have very high support limits, 34 and 59. So, and we have a total of 7 and 15 ships. I don't know why you have more ships than an army, but whatever. Here is our religion and rebel menu. As you can see, we're Catholic. And we have our religious decisions here. We can pass the Blasphemy Act, which is... it makes our stability more expensive to buy, but it makes our missionaries cheaper. And there's other ones that we can't do yet. Here you can see our tolerances of various religions. This is our tolerance of the true faith, which is Catholic to us, because we follow that. And then heretics are Orthodox and Reformation people. People who are Protestants. People who are Christian, but still, but don't follow Catholicism. And over here is everybody else. Heathens, people we don't like. See, if we were Muslim, Sunnis and Shiites would be the true faith and the heretics, sort of thing. But down here is everybody else, and we hate them. But it seems that we hate heretics just as much. And this little button is the defender of the faith. Pretty much one person can be defender of the faith for each religion at one time. Costs 500 gold to get, and it basically means that you have to be, super crusader guy. I might try to be that most of the time. And if we had rebel factions, they would be showing up down here. You can see what type of rebels you have and stuff like that. Right here is our government screen. Their form of government right now is a feudal monarchy. This shows what that means. That's quite a bit of rules, years between policy changes, but I believe it's because our empire is huge and we have some modifier making that. I'm not sure about that, but we can change to despotic monarchy, and we spend 1 stability and switch to that. And it basically gives us infamy versus force limits modifier. I rather have the force limit modifier right now, but if I do a lot of conquering, I can change to despotic monarchy. Once we get to our national decisions, you can see I can actually change to empire, which will give me magistrates in lieu of either of those, which is very good, and you'll see why I'm not going to do that. These are our national ideas. We can't actually use these yet. We don't get one until tech level 4. But these are very important. We'll go over that when we get to them. These are our domestic policies. These are basically what type of government we have, and we can move these based on either events or our free slider movements. As you can see from our type of government, we only get one every 12 years, almost 13 years. So we got to use these wisely, and we're pretty balanced. But I'd like us to be going in one direction or another on some of these. See, like here, it seems like some of the, you would think some of them are pretty bad. It's like, why would you want to go that way? Well, like innovative versus narrow-minded. Narrow-minded gives you quite a bit of bonuses to your conversion and colonial growth. So and your papal influence. So it's nice to have that. And innovative pretty much just gives you a bonus to technology, while lowering all the rest of that stuff. Technology is very good, so I'd like to have that in the middle as much as possible. But I mean, think versus Spain versus England, or like Holland or something, where you have, very religious, not very technologically motivated, and then, yeah. Anyway, that's basically what that is. This is the big one. People think, well, why would you want to do that? But there is a reason. Centralization versus decentralization. Decentralization is basically how much control you have over the economy. The more decentralized you get, the less efficiency you'll have on production, and the opposite is true of centralization. We're not, because of our government, we're not actually allowed to lower or raise these two past a certain limit. And if you do lower it past there, you get big penalties. So yeah, in general, some of these are just better than others. Yeah, decentralization is not that good. Aristocracy versus plutocracy is basically like your landed elites versus your skilled people. And both of these have pretty good reasons to use them. Serfdom versus free subjects is pretty self-explanatory. Serfdom is like your bonded people to the land. So we were leaning towards that because we were a feudal government. And never mind that I've explained. Mercantilism versus free trade. Mercantilism is good if you have a trade thing in your place. But free trade is better if you use a lot of outside centers of trade. It also gives you better merchant costs and stuff like that. And mercantilism gives you better spy defense. Because you don't have as many foreign merchants running around taking your gerbs. Also, offensive versus defensive just gives you a bonus to various types of troops. I'll probably leave this in the middle unless I get a change from an event. Land versus naval is pretty self-explanatory. I'll probably want to lean towards Navy a bit because of my placement in the world. And how much water I have touching my empire. And the fact that I have quite a few ships. And quality versus quantity. This is kind of a thing that is... It's actually quite a bit of a trade-off. You get a lot more troops if you invest heavily in quantity. But your quality of troops, it makes your troops better. And better troops are better than more troops. But sometimes you just need more troops. Like if the other people have crappy quantity troops and you need a bunch of them when you don't have any, you should never not have armies. Unlike in Crusader Kings, you can actually have a standing army walking around and not have to, have them all die or pay millions of gold for it. So, yeah. And it's always worth it to have at least some army. So, we'll go over which one of these I'll use when we actually start the game. Next is our leaders, and you can see here this is the discipline of our army tradition, which you get from fighting. It degrades over time, much like prestige does. Navy tradition is the same. We can recruit admirals and generals, but it costs money. It costs 55 ducats for generals. And we can convert our ruler to a general. There's no reason not to do that now. But we already have a really, really good leader, who is our marshal from Crusader Kings. So, Lorenz here is probably not going to get into fighting, but probably most of the characters from Crusader Kings are pretty old, so it's likely that one or both of them will die, so we'll need to recruit another one. Having a leader in your army is much, much better than not having a leader in your army. Although you can fight rebels and stuff without a leader. Depending on how many rebels there are, and if they've got a leader. This is our culture screen. There's not really anything... these are our modifiers. Your fire, shock, and maneuver are the various phases in Siege. The various phases of combat. And this shows your skill in the sieges. When we actually fight, I'll kind of point out when they're doing it. It's kind of... yeah. It's simple, but it seems complicated. This is our culture screen. You see our culture tradition is 20%. That's basically what it starts at. It also shows our army and navy tradition because some of these guys require having Navy or Army tradition. Like a trader here requires a Navy tradition as well. And we can recruit various guys. We've still got some really good advisors, so I'm not really going to want to buy these. When you use them, it costs cultural tradition. Now, it says here you lose 20% cultural tradition. Well, it doesn't mean you lose all of this. It means you lose 20% of this. So you'd be at 16. Yeah, and then over here we have cultural decisions, which basically give you more cultural tradition, less infamy, more legitimacy, things like that. Yeah. Army tradition. It's nice, but we can't do any of them yet because they cost magistrates. And we don't have magistrates. Next to this is missions and national decisions. As you can see, we have 2 national decisions unlocked. Reestablish the Kingdom of Jerusalem, which is basically means we'll release Judea as a sovereign state with the Breton culture. Yeah, and we gain 25 prestige, which is a lot of prestige. Or we can adopt imperial administration. We gain 5 prestige, but notice we lose 3 stability. We can't afford that right now, so I'm not going to do it. We'll still qualify for it later, so I'm not too worried about it. Up here with missions. We don't have a mission right now. But as soon as we start the game, we'll get a mission. It'll be like, conquer this province, make friends with France, put a pine cone on your head, or something like that. Build ships. Probably build ships, because we don't have that many ships and our force modifier is pretty high. I actually hope we get the build army one, because I'll probably be doing that anyway. And you can cancel a mission, but it costs you 5 prestige, and then you can't get another one for 5 years. But if you complete a mission, you get another one right away. So yeah, that's that. That's pretty much it for the interface. I think I'm going to break this up into 2 parts here, just to kind of have the main non-gameplay explanation section between it. So I'm going to cut here and be back.